Welcome to Initiation into the Higher Mysteries, from The Way of Initiation by Dr. Rudolf Steiner, vegetarian, on Words of Wisdom. Born in 1861, Dr. Rudolf Steiner was a great Austrian polymath, philosopher, and scientist who made influential contributions in the fields of education, science, spirituality, and medicine. He is perhaps best known for pioneering the holistic educational methods for the Waldorf schools. An eloquent public speaker and gifted writer, he gave over 6,000 lectures in his lifetime and also gained recognition as a literary critic. His writings cover a wide range of subjects, and he published more than 25 books, including Mysticism at the Dawn of the Modern Age, The Way of Initiation, and Intuitive Thinking as a Spiritual Path, The Philosophy of Freedom. He developed and taught an esoteric spiritual philosophy called anthroposophy, based on the science of the spirit. Today, we will read a selection from the chapters Enlightenment and Initiation from Rudolf Steiner's book, The Way of Initiation. The philosopher reveals how an initiation candidate can prepare themselves with the qualities needed if they are to be initiated into the higher mysteries. Enlightenment. The quality which is indispensable to him who would be initiated is a certain measure of courage and fearlessness. He must absolutely go out of his way to find opportunities for developing these virtues. In the occult schools, they are cultivated quite systematically, but life in this respect is itself an excellent school of occultism, nay, possibly the best. To face danger calmly, to try to overcome difficulties unswervingly, this is what the student must learn to do. For instance, in the presence of some peril, he must rise at once to the conception that fears are altogether useless and ought not to be entertained for one moment, but that the mind ought simply to be concentrated on what is to be done. He must reach a point where it has become impossible for him ever again to feel afraid or to lose his courage. By self-discipline in this direction, he will develop within himself distinct qualities which he needs if he is to be initiated into the higher mysteries. Just as man in his physical being requires nervous force in order to use his physical senses, so also in his psychic nature he requires the force which is only produced in the courageous and the fearless. For in penetrating to the higher mysteries, he will see things not yet revealed to the physical eyesight, nor to any other of the human senses. The latter, by hiding from our gaze, the higher verities, things which we could not bear to behold, are in reality our benefactors, since they prevent us from perceiving that which, if realized without due preparation, would throw us into unutterable consternation. The disciple must be prepared to endure this sight, although he has lost certain supports in the outer world by a realization of the very illusions that encompassed him. It is truly and literally as if his attention were suddenly drawn to a certain danger, by which for some time he had been unconsciously threatened. He was not afraid hitherto, but now that he sees his peril, he is overcome by terror, even though the danger has not been rendered any greater by his knowledge thereof. The forces at work in the world are both destructive and creative. The destiny of manifested beings is birth and death. The initiate is to behold this march of destiny. The veil, which in the ordinary course of life clouds the spiritual eyes, is to be uplifted, and the man is to see himself as one interwoven with these forces, with this destiny. His own nature contains destructive and creative powers. As undisguisedly as the other objects of his vision are revealed to the eye of the seer, his own soul is bared to his gaze. In the face of this self-knowledge, the disciple must not suffer himself to droop, and in this he will succeed only if he has brought with him an excess of the necessary strength. In order that this may be the case, he must learn to maintain inner calm and confidence in the most difficult circumstances. He must nourish within himself a firm faith in the beneficent forces of existence. He must be prepared to find that many motives which have actuated him hitherto will actuate him no longer. He must needs perceive that he has hitherto often thought or acted in a certain manner, because he was still in the toils of ignorance. Reasons which formerly influenced him will now disappear. He has done many things out of personal vanity. He will now perceive how utterly futile all such vanity is in the eyes of the initiate. He has done much from motives of avarice. He will now be aware of the destructive effect of all avariciousness. He will have to develop entirely new springs for his thought and action, and it is for this that courage and fearlessness are required. It is especially a matter of cultivating this courage and this fearlessness in the inmost depths of the mental life. The disciple must learn never to despair. He must always be equal to the thought, I will forget that I have again failed in this matter. I will try once more, as though nothing at all had happened. Thus, he will fight his way on to the firm conviction that the universe contains inexhaustible fountains of strength from which he may drink. He must aspire again and again to the divine, which will uplift and support him, however feeble and impotent the mortal part of his being may prove. He must be capable of pressing on towards the future, undismayed by any experiences of the past. Every teacher of occultism will carefully ascertain how far the disciple, aspiring to initiation into the higher mysteries, has advanced on the road of spiritual preparation. If he fulfills these conditions to a certain degree, he is then worthy to hear uttered those names of things which form the key that unlocks the higher knowledge. For initiation consists in this very act of learning to know the things of the universe by those names which they bear in the spirit of their divine author. And the mystery of things lies in these names. Therefore, it is that the initiate speaks another language than that of the uninitiate, for he knows the names by which things were called into existence. Initiation. The highest degree in occultism, of which it is possible to speak in a book for general readers, is initiation. One cannot give public information concerning all that lies beyond, though the way to it can always be found by one who has previously pressed forward and penetrated the lower secrets and mysteries. The knowledge and power which are conferred upon a man through initiation could not be obtained in any other manner except in some far distant future, after many incarnations, on quite another road and in quite another form. He who is initiated today experiences something which he would otherwise have to experience at a much later period and under quite different circumstances. It is right that a person should learn only so much of the secrets of nature as corresponds to his own degree of development, and for this reason alone do obstacles bar his way to complete knowledge and power. If a person without the necessary preparation were initiated today, he would still lack those experiences which, in the normal course of his development, would come to him in the future during other incarnations, and would then bring with them the corresponding secrets. At the door of initiation, these experiences must therefore be supplied in some other way, and in their place the candidate has to undergo the preliminary teaching. These are so-called trials which have to be passed. These trials are now being discussed in various books and magazines, but owing to the very nature of such discussion, it is not surprising that quite false impressions are received concerning them. For those who have not already gone through the periods of probation and enlightenment know nothing of these trials and consequently cannot appropriately describe them. Certain matters or subjects connected with the higher worlds are produced before the candidate, but he is able to see and hear these only when he can perceive clearly the figures, tones, and colors for which he has been prepared by the teachings on probation and enlightenment. Blissful viewers, we thank you for your kind presence for today's Words of Wisdom.